stone house in Italy for less than the price of a new pickup truck. Sounds fake, right? That's exactly what I thought, because somewhere in this video there's a fully livable Italian stone home with mountain views, a fireplace, and centuries of history behind its walls for just 65,000 euros, about $75,000. And it isn't a ruin. I spent days digging through hundreds of listings across Italy looking for properties people could actually move into. No collapsing roofs, no endless renovations, no fantasy listings that look better in photos than in real life. What I found surprised me. These are some of the most beautiful single-story stone houses currently on the market in Italy, and one of them has a feature so unusual that it completely changed my favorite property on this list. Wait until you see the last one. Right now, Property 1, Santa Fiora, a medieval hill town in the southern tip of Tuscany, sitting at the edge of a volcanic plateau known as Monte Amiata. It's the kind of place where the streets are paved in dark basalt stone, and the air in summer is 10 degrees cooler than the coast. The architecture here is dense, vertical, and built to last. Thick stone walls that have been absorbing mountain winters since the Middle Ages, and specifically, we're in a hamlet called Bagni, sitting at about 800 meters above sea level. The asking price is 65,000 euros, about 75,000 US dollars at the time of this roundup. The property is a detached stone house, two-sided, which means exposed stone on two exterior faces, and from the outside it looks exactly like what you imagine when someone says Italian stone house. Thick walls, old construction, the kind of building that's been standing since 1900 and looks like it'll outlast you by another century. Now here's what's actually inside, because this is where it gets interesting. The house is configured as two completely separate units. The main apartment runs over 2 floors, kitchen on the ground floor, then bedroom, study, and bathroom upstairs. But adjacent to that, with its own separate entrance, there's a studio apartment with a bathroom on the first floor and a garage below. 2 independent living spaces, one title. The second entrance, and I know this matters if you're thinking about income or hosting family, means you have a completely independent unit you can rent, lend, or leave closed. It's not hypothetical, it's already there. Honest compromise, and I'll say it plainly, Bagni is remote, 800 meters elevation in a hamlet that's not on the main road. Winter access is worth verifying before you sign anything. This isn't Siena. You will need a car. If you want a property where you can walk to a bar every morning, this isn't it. But if you want genuine solitude in the hills, functioning gas heating, a working electrical system, and 2 separate habitable units for 65,000 euros, $75,000, this is a property I'd show a friend. Solid, honest, and real. The teaser, and I mean this. The next one made me look at this price tag differently. We're staying on Monte Amiata, still southern Tuscany, still stone, still altitude. Monte Amiata is an extinct volcano and the highest point in Tuscany south of Florence. And the villages that ring its slopes have a quiet, unhurried quality that the more famous Tuscan towns lost about 30 years ago. The hamlet here is called Selva, and the property is described as fully renovated. I want to tell you what that means before I tell you the price, because in this price range, renovated usually means someone painted over the problems. This is not that. New hydropellet heating system, new bathrooms, new electrical, new fixtures throughout. The fireplace in the living room is original. It's a feature, not a liability. The kitchen is large. There are 2 double bedrooms, and outside there's approximately 1,000 square meters, about 10,960 square feet of land. Partly parking, partly garden that comes with the property. The setting is genuinely beautiful. Deep woodland on Monte Amiata, a naturalistic context that the listing describes with unusual specificity. It's not just nice views, it's forest, altitude, quiet. The kind of quiet where you hear nothing. The price is 99,000 euros, about 115,000 US dollars. I'll be honest, I'm not sure how long this one stays on the market at this price. The listing was live at time of selection, but fully renovated stone houses with land in this part of Italy at under 100,000 euros don't sit for 6 months. That's not pressure. That's just how this segment of the market works. 2 properties in, and here's what you're actually looking at. In most of Northern Europe, 99,000 euros, $115,000, buys you a very small studio if you're lucky. In this part of Italy, it buys you stone walls, a completely renovated interior, functioning modern systems, and 1,000 square meters of land. That's the frame you need to carry into everything else on this list. Now we move into Lunigiana, which is one of those parts of Italy that even most Italians don't think about when they think about Tuscany. Lunigiana is a narrow valley territory tucked between the Apennines and the Ligurian Alps. historically a crossroads between northern and central Italy, and architecturally one of the most intact medieval landscapes in the country. The stone here is different from Sienese Tuscany, darker, rougher, more fortress-like, and the villages feel genuinely lived in rather than restored for tourism. This property sits in one of those villages, walking distance to a restaurant and a bar. For context, if you've looked at Lunigiana properties before, you know that walking distance to services is not something to take lightly. The asking price here is 100,000 euros, about $116,000. And I want you to hold that number while I tell you what it gets you. The house enters through a vaulted communal entrance, typical of village construction, then up a small staircase to a private entrance terrace. Inside, living room, 2 double bedrooms, hallway, bathroom with bath, and a kitchen that opens directly onto the terrace. Below that, 3 cellars with 2 separate entrances. The total built area is 190 square meters, about 2,045 square feet, and the property comes fully furnished. There's also a 523 square meter land plot, roughly 5,630 square feet, included in the sale. The honest compromise here is this. 1 bathroom for 190 square meters is a real constraint. If you're moving a family in, that's a conversation you need to have with yourself. The heating is a wood-burning cooker, which is charming and also functional, but again, worth factoring in. Before I go further, let me give you a sense of what life actually looks like in this part of Italy, because maps and distances matter more than any listing description. From Lunigiana, you're roughly 20-25 minutes from Aula or Pontremoli for supermarkets, pharmacies, and daily services. The nearest full hospital is further, think 40 to 45 minutes depending on exactly where you are. That's not a deal breaker, but if medical proximity is a priority for you, it's an honest thing to know before you fall in love with a house. The Ligurian coast, proper sea, proper beaches, is about 45 to 60 minutes away. Internet in rural Lunigiana is patchy. Fiber exists in the main towns, but many villages are ADSL territory, and Starlink is the practical answer for remote workers. The life feels like this. Saturday market in a Medieva El Piazza, espresso for €1, and then a drive through chestnut forest to get home. Here's something many listing descriptions don't spell out. When you buy a property in Italy as a non-prima casa purchase, often the case for international buyers purchasing a holiday or second home, you should budget for additional transaction costs on top of the purchase price. For many resale purchases, those costs commonly fall around the high single digits to low teens as a percentage of the price, once you include registration tax, notary fees, and agency commission, though the exact number depends on the cadastral value, the type of seller, and the agreed professional fees. One key point, if you qualify for Italy's prima casa relief, for example, by establishing residence in the municipality where the property is located within 18 months of purchase, subject to the other eligibility rules, the tax component can be significantly lower. Ask the agent and notary about this directly before you make an offer. The difference can be several thousand euros. Don't assume the listing price is the total number you'll need to complete the purchase. And this is exactly the kind of thing I want you to check before you fall in love with a house. That's why I created The Real Cost of Buying a Cheap House in Europe, a complete 180-page guide to help you understand what you're really paying before you make an offer. If you're serious about buying in Europe, this guide could save you thousands by helping you avoid the wrong property and the hidden costs most buyers miss. You can get it through the link in the description or just scan the QR code on screen. Don't buy the dream blind. Now let me tell you something. Up until now, every property on this list has been in the Tuscan interior or the Apennines, stone altitude forests. And that's real and that's beautiful, but Italy is a long country. What happens when we move the map entirely? Bagni di Lucca is technically in Tuscany, but it's a different Tuscany, a thermal spa town tucked into the Lima River Valley, surrounded by chestnut forests in a slightly softer, more romantic landscape than the volcanic south. It was fashionable with British and European aristocracy in the 19th century, and you can still feel that faded elegance in the architecture. This property is about 8 kilometers from the town center, in a village that has a shop, a bar, a good restaurant, and a post office, all within walking distance. At 110,000 euros, about $120,000. Here's what that actually buys you. The property was restored a few years ago to what the listing describes as a high standard, and the details support that. The ground floor has an entrance and dining room with fireplace, a fitted modern kitchen, a hallway, and a utility room. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. The total floor area is about 100 square meters, just over 1,075 square feet. Outside is where it gets good. a large paved courtyard garden of about 65 square meters, roughly 700 square feet, with a pergola and an outbuilding that has a storage room and a small bathroom. And then, separately, about 50 meters from the house, there's an additional 860 square meter land plot, about 9,255 square feet, included in the sale. The honest compromise? There's another floor above this property that belongs to a different owner. Neighbors overhead. That's a real thing in Italian village buildings, and it matters for noise and for any future plans involving the roof. For context, 110,000 euros, $120,000 is roughly what a studio apartment costs in a mid-tier British city right now. One room, no garden, no fireplace, no pergola, no separate land. I'm not saying Italy is perfect. I'm saying value is relative. And at this price, a 3-bedroom restored village house with a courtyard and 860 square meters of land is, by any comparison, a different proposition entirely. Now we go south, far south, the heel of Italy, Salento. This is the southernmost tip of Puglia, flat, sun-bleached and surrounded by 2 seas, the Adriatic to the east and the Ionian to the west. The architecture here is completely unlike anything in Tuscany. Whitewashed facades, Baroque stone carvings, star-vaulted ceilings that were engineered centuries ago to keep interiors cool without air conditioning. The summers are long and hot, the winters are mild, and the coastline is genuinely some of the clearest water in the Mediterranean. Alliste is a small historic town in the province of Lecce, and this property is in the old center. Cobbled streets, star vaults, the architecture that people fly to Puglia to photograph. The asking price is 120,000 euros. $139,000. The house is 60 square meters, about 645 square feet, across 2 levels, and it has been renovated properly, thoughtfully, in a way that keeps the original details while making the interior actually livable. Star vaults on the ceilings, wall niches, original to the structure, and on the first floor, a stone fireplace with the year 1700 engraved into it. Not as a decorative feature, as a record. The house is that old, and it's still standing, and you can buy it. Ground floor, a bedroom, with an ensuite bathroom. First floor, open-plan living space, guest bathroom, and 2 small balconies. And then the roof terrace, large, private, with panoramic views over stone rooftops and the Salento countryside. Year-round usable because of the sun exposure. Wide enough for a table, 4 chairs, and still room to pace. The honest compromise is the square footage. 60 meters, 645 square feet is small. If you're buying this for a family of 4 as a primary residence, think carefully. As a holiday home, a rental, or a property for 1 or 2 people, the size becomes an asset. It's manageable. And the best part is, Alliste is 5 minutes from the sea. Capilungo, Torre Suda. Proper Salento coastline. 22 kilometers from Gallipoli. The airport at Brindisi is 105 kilometers, about an hour's drive. Now, I'll be honest, the next property almost didn't make it into this video. Not because there's anything wrong with it, because it doesn't have the stone walls, the fireplace, the Tuscan hillside. It looks completely different from everything else here. But that's exactly why I kept it in, because I think some of you watching this want something real, not something cinematic. And this one is as real as it gets. Concordia, Sagittaria. Northern Italy, Veneto region, near Portogruaro. This is the flat, agricultural northeast of Italy, the Po Plain, where the landscape opens up. The architecture is modest and practical, and the focus is on function over form. It's well connected, close to Venice, and the kind of place where Italian families actually live, rather than where tourists go to photograph them. 120,000 euros, $139,000, same price as the Salento house. Different world. The house was completely renovated around 2020. New electrical, new plumbing, new bathroom built from scratch. And then whoever renovated it went further. 10 centimeters of external thermal insulation, air conditioning, and, this is the detail, a 3 kilowatt photovoltaic solar system with a battery storage unit connected to the boiler and the water heater. This is a house with serious thought put into its running costs. The layout is entirely single level, which the listing notes as increasingly sought after, and it's right. No stairs, easy access, a practical flow from the portico entrance through to a bright, open-plan kitchen and living room with a wood-burning stove, then a hallway to 2 bedrooms and a bathroom with a laundry corner. The total surface area is approximately 85 square meters, around 915 square feet. Outside, a storage room and a covered parking space. The furnishings, kitchen, bathroom, fixed structures, are included in the sale. The honest compromise. Concordia Sagittaria is not a romantic destination. It's a real Italian town. It is convenient. Motorway access, well connected, services nearby, but it's not where you go for the Stone Village fantasy. It's where you go for a properly renovated, energy-efficient, genuinely livable home that will cost you very little to run. And now, the property I mentioned at the start, the one with the detail that changes how you see everything else on this list. Siligo, a village in Sardinia, in the province of Sassari. Sardinia is not mainland Italy. It feels categorically different, older, more elemental, with a culture and a landscape that developed in near isolation for centuries. The interior of the island, where Siligo sits, is rolling hill country, dotted with neuralgic Bronze Age towers, cork oak forests, and villages where the old ways are still very much intact. This is not the Sardinia of yachts and celebrity beaches. This is the other one. The asking price is 125,000 euros, about 145,000 US dollars. And now let me tell you what that number actually buys. The property is a detached house on 3 levels. I said 3 levels. Let me tell you what that means. Ground floor, large living room, an eat-in kitchen with a dining area, 3 bedrooms, a study, a storage room, and a large bathroom, and with a terrace looking out over the hills. The floor below that is a rustic environment, registered as a different category with new fixtures mirroring the ground floor layout, and the listing notes that changing its intended use to residential is possible. And then there's the tavern level, a kitchen with fireplace, a bathroom, and another large room usable as a hobby room or cellar. Total area, 460 square meters, like nearly 5,000 square feet, with a planted garden. The detail I planted at the start, the one I said would change how you see all the others, and this is it. Not the location, not the architecture, not the style, the scale. Because once you see 460 square meters at 125,000 euros, $145,000 you can't unsee it. You go back to every other property on this list and you think, what is space actually worth? What am I paying for? The honest compromise, Siligo is a small village. It is not for people who want to live 15 minutes from an airport or a major city. Sassari, the nearest city, is roughly 30 to 40 minutes away, and Alghero with its international airport is about 45 minutes. The Gulf of Asinara is accessible, so are the beaches, but this is a property for someone who wants to step out of the ordinary rhythm, not someone who wants to commute from it. The listing specifically mentions B&B potential, and at 460 square meters across 3 independent levels, that's not a stretch. Where does that leave us? If you want sea access and want to be somewhere warm, easy to access, and genuinely beautiful, the Alliste property in Salento is the one. 5 minutes to the coast, real Pugliese architecture, the 1700 fireplace. It's hard to argue with that as a holiday home or a soft landing in Italy. If you're a remote worker or you want something fully renovated and ready to live in without a single call to a contractor, the Monte Amiata house at 99,000 euros, $115,000, is the strongest turnkey option on this list, fully renovated, land included, under 100,000 euros. If you want space, real space, the kind that makes you laugh a little, Siligo is the answer. 460 square meters, nearly 5,000 square feet, for 125,000 euros, $145,000. It's not competing with the others. It's playing a different game, the honest verdict, said the way I'd say it over coffee. Italy still offers things that feel almost impossible to find elsewhere in Europe, and this list is the proof of that. One question for the comments, and I'm genuinely curious, if you had to choose between the Salento Terrace house at 120,000 euros and the Sardinian hillside estate at 125,000, same budget, completely different life. Which one wins for you? Drop it below. If you want to keep seeing what's out there in Europe's more interesting corners, the subscribe button is right there, and the next video is already in the works.